Oh, wait. Sorry about that. New music. In 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome back to the podcast editing and support show with new music. Yeah, there's a reason. We'll get into that. And I'm glad to have you here. So if you are a podcast editor looking for a podcaster, if you're a podcaster looking for an editor, well, consider us your dating match service. It's podcast editing and support. We're here for you. Thanks for being here. So, hey, welcome back to the podcast editing and support show. I know you're like, what was that? What happened to the other music, Dave? You know, the signature music that's always been part of this podcast. What happened? Well, I changed my subscription to the music that I had purchased through Storyblocks. Love Storyblocks. Again, storyblocks.com. They did a feature on my How to Podcast series about how to podcast over at howtopodcast.ca. You can read it. Love the people at Storyblocks. And it's just a temporary thing, you know, money and things, kind of a big deal. So I had to end off my monthly payment to Storyblocks. And that brings into play the whole idea around licensing and understanding the licensing of music and what you can and cannot do. So we'll get into that here on the show. So if you're a podcaster and don't understand licensing around music, always read the fine print. And then also a bonus consideration for you as a podcast editor to keep in mind when editing for your clients, and when the client holds the license to a piece of music or content, you might not, as the editor, have access to the same materials because you're not covered under the same license. So something to consider. Glad you're here. Let's join in the conversation, shall we? Here we go. So the amazing music you heard at the beginning is from my friend. His name is Jacob Moon. He lives in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Famously known for doing a cover of Subdivisions by Rush up on top of a building, which caught the attention of Rush, asking him to perform for them. And he does everything with a loop pedal. It's the coolest thing. He'll build a song in front of you, all the different parts, one person, one guitar. It's just the coolest person ever. So I reached out to Jacob and asked him to create music for one of my other shows, and he gladly did. I paid him, and I own the track that you heard at the beginning. That's Jacob. I gave him a sense of the songs that I liked that were close to the feel of what I was looking for, and that's what he created for me. And he's an amazing musician. And I would say that is probably one of the untapped things that we as editors can do, and for you as podcasters to do, is to reach into your neighborhood, reach into your community, and find musicians that are willing and would love to create instrumental tracks for you and your show. And you pay them directly, make an agreement with them that you can have the music, and that song is mine. Nobody else in this entire world, has that song. Just me. Jacob made it for me. So if you don't have connections in the music industry, I've been in music for 46 years. I've been in the studio a lot, on stage, in concert, in smoky bars. I've had people knock their beers onto my equipment, all of that fun stuff. If you don't have those kind of connections in your circle, then I would suggest, here's a little bonus tip for you. You don't have to pay me for this. Go to your local music store. There's probably a bulletin board somewhere near the entrance or exit where you're going to see papers pinned up there with a little rip off the phone number thing, you know, like we did back in the day. And it'll say like bass guitar wanted or lead singer wanted, whatever. Kiss reunion concert coming up, whatever it is. These are people looking for people to be in bands or to whatever. Put an ad up there. Say podcaster looking for intro, outro music, this style, with your contact information and maybe a QR code to your podcast. And then just ask musicians to create music for you and pay them directly. What a great way to support your local community of musicians and get unique music that you can't get off the service that everybody else is using, so you sound like everyone else, right? So, again, love Storyblocks. But if that monthly ongoing fee is something you can't handle, or it's not in the cards financially for you, a one-time payment to somebody and you own outright the song is a great alternative. And I'd really encourage you to consider that as editors, to build relationships with musicians, sorry, some of my throat there. Build relationships with musicians, with musicians who have the ability and, have the ability and talent to record music for you. One more time for emphasis. And connect with them and have them in your, you used to call them a Rolodex, which was like a listing with phone numbers and names. I don't know, I'm sorry. We used to have this thing. It was like a Rolodex. It was a list of people, names, contact information, and people you could call and just reach out and go, hey, I need some salsa music for this new podcast. What do you think? Here, no problem, buddy. And off you go. There's the music. So if you're looking for musicians who know how to record music, pause for effect, then put them in your list and have them available to you, and skip these ongoing monthly payments that you're making or your clients are making for music. Why are you not using your community, people? Go ahead and do that. Podcasteditingandsupport.com is all the information for me. And if you're interested, and connect with those musicians. So that's the first start. So I reached out to Jacob. He created the music for me. It's mine. And I can use it anywhere I want, anytime I want, all the time. I will put his information in the show notes because he's a great guy and you just need to meet him and you got to go fall in love with his music, especially if you love guitar stuff and all that great stuff. Thank you, Jacob. So that's the first part of all this. So I stopped my membership with Storyblocks, not because I don't like them, it's because I just don't have the money right now. Clients are sparse. So if you're looking for a editor and you have money to spend, I'm looking to work with you. So podcasteditingandsupport.com. Anyhow, as I have to make some changes to finances right now, it's a little tight. I had to drop my $40-ish a month fee for Storyblocks. With that $40 a month, I was getting 5 new downloads a month that I could have. And I was using that music in Living the Next Chapter. You have a chance to listen to Living the Next Chapter. Almost every episode has a different track because I had 5 downloads every month. I was getting a ton of amazing music. It is spectacular. So every episode I was going nuts and doing all kinds of fun music things. Really love it. Really, really love it. But it came down to dollars and cents. So I had to make the decisions that made sense by taking a break for now. By doing that, when I'm reading through the license agreement on Storyblocks, your music service of choice may differ, but for Storyblocks, basically, in a non-lawyer terminology, because I am not a lawyer at all, it states that I am allowed to use any of the music I've downloaded from the past into the future as long as I maintain my monthly subscription. At the time, when I cancel my subscription, every music track that I've used historically in all of my past episodes are still covered by the license that I am no longer paying for, which is the case. So that means all of this music I've downloaded, I am not allowed to use it in the future. Pretty simple, right? I can't start a new project today using expired licensed music that I am no longer covered for future projects. And that's how it works for that platform and for many platforms. So just because I downloaded it once, there are some other places that work differently. But just because I downloaded it once under a paid plan doesn't mean I get to use it into the future forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. That would be a terrible business plan for Storyblocks. And I get it. That's how they do what they do. And I support that. As a musician, I definitely support that. Again, as a musician, I definitely support that. So when I stopped my membership, that meant the music for this show, covered under my Storyblock license, was no longer mine to use for future projects, including this episode. So I had to make a change. So I went back to my track with Jacob Moon, and I'm using it here instead. Again, because I own it outright and it's mine. So that's my consideration for you as an editor. When you're talking to your client, your new podcaster that's signed on with you, and we start talking about music for your show. I just did this with a client just recently. Client in the UK, Milton. Hey, Milton, love your show. Milton has a new show called Dominate Your Potential, and he was looking for music. He sent me some tracks, and they were licensed tracks, and we didn't have the license for them, nor the money to pay for it. So we changed gears, tried another site, Upbeat with 2 P's, upbeat.io, I believe it is. And Upbeat is really cool. They have a free version of songs with a limited library that you can download. The interesting thing about Upbeat with 2 P's is that every time you download the free track, every time you want to use the free track, you have to download a new licensed copy of the same free track. You can't use it, download it once and just keep using it over and over. Every time you use it, you have to get a new license per use for the same track. Which means, and I think there's a limit to how many a month you can download for free. So basically, if you have a weekly episode and you're doing 4 episodes a week, I believe, don't quote me, I believe you had 3 free downloads a month of any track. And if you use up those 3 downloads for one track, that means your 4th episode would have no music until you go to the paid plan. And then you don't have to worry about that. But the free tracks had a limit to how many times you can download it. And you have to get a new credit or a new thing that you have to post in your show notes with giving license to that use of that song once. And you have to do it every single time. So I'm like, well, that's not going to work because my client would have to download that because it's his account and he'd have to send me the information and that's just a nightmare. So that's not going to work. So then we started talking more and Milton says, well, I recorded music on my own years ago. Can we just use that? I'm like, do you own the license? Yeah. He's like, I said, is this a cover of somebody else's song? No, it's my song. I wrote the song. So you have the license. Yeah, it's my song. So yeah, let's just use your song. Hello. Yeah, that's perfect. And that's what we did. Works great. So Milton, amazing. Totally unexpected. And what a workaround. It's great. So if your client has music or they're a musician, again, pause for effect. If your client is a musician, then ask them to create their own music. Awesome. That really works well. So for Milton, that's what we did for his show. Really happy with it. Turned out great. Was able to cut the track up into pieces and create an intro version of the track and an outro version of the track because I use Audacity and not Descript. They don't do stuff like that. And that's where we went with him. So the client owns the track. And that's one thing I just really want to focus in on too here today with you is when you're working on your client's project and they send to you the track that they want to use in their podcast, and then they send you the recording of their episode, and you're going to put them together. The track that comes to you, the music track that comes to you from your client with their license agreement is not your license agreement. You didn't pay for that music track. They did. So you don't own the track as an editor. Your client does. And depending on how the client's agreement is set up with the place where they got the track, if they bought it, download it monthly, pay a monthly fee, you're going to have to look into the terms of service as to whether or not you can repost to your page outside of your client when you say, hey, look, I did this podcast for this person. Here's my work. Does the music license transfer to you as a non-licensed user of your client's music track? Have you thought of that? Because I don't think a lot of people think of that. Because I notice a lot of podcasters will pull in a podcast. Let's do a podcast swap, for example. So you give me your podcast episode, I give you mine. You have your music and I have my music. My license doesn't cover you when you play my show on your podcast feed. Your music license that you bought it, right? Yeah. Or you hired somebody to create the music, does not transfer to me when I play your show on my feed. Do you see what's happening? So you need to be careful with how the music is handled. Why? Because the bots are out there. Spotify is notorious around music and in podcasts. And you need to be careful who has what at what time and who's covered by what. That's why I changed the music for this show, is because I stopped my Storyblocks account. I'm no longer paying monthly into the future for this account at this point until I get some more clients. Because I don't have the money to pay for my Storyblocks, I now have to make a change to my music. And that's again why the show music changed for the show. So keep this in mind. It is super important that you understand the licensing agreements for your clients, for you working on your clients' projects. And as a podcaster listening to this, looking for an editor, you need to know that you can't just grab any song off the radio, anything off TikTok. You can't just go out and grab random music and you have no idea who made the song, who owns the song, is it free to use? Be very careful. And then I have people saying to me, well, I'll just use the music from YouTube. Okay, that music is built for YouTube. So it's built for the confines of YouTube. The moment you take music you've downloaded and you use in your podcast from YouTube, when you edit on YouTube, doesn't mean you can take that same track and release it on Instagram or TikTok or your podcast that goes on Spotify. Those are different platforms. You're taking music licensed under one platform and believing that you have access to distribute it everywhere, which you don't. So please be careful that you're not putting yourself into danger by assuming that one platform covers all, because it doesn't. You need to read the fine print, and you need to work with an editor that cares enough to steer you away from making a really bad choice for your podcast. And if you're working with an editor who's like, you can do whatever you want, who cares? You can use 10 seconds of music or movies or whatever, and nobody's going to come for you. They don't got time to chase the little people. Well, you're in the wrong place talking to the wrong person, because that person's an idiot. Really. They're an idiot because they're telling you to do something illegal. Don't do something illegal. Don't. That's dumb. That's bad advice. You're talking to the wrong person. A 10-second clip. Well, it's free use. Fair use. No, it's fairly stupid to do that. So don't do that. And work with somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, especially somebody who's an artist and a musician who knows what music is supposed to be, how it works. So don't, be careful. Okay, calm down, Dave, calm down. Okay, I'm good. When you stop paying for your music license, be sure you check the terms of service. Can you use that same track that you love, which I love the track for this podcast? No, you can't use it in the future, and be aware of that. And don't just go, well, if I don't get caught, no harm, no foul. Technically jaywalking, when you don't cross at a crosswalk and you just pick a random spot in the middle of the road and cross across the street through traffic is illegal. I know. How often are you going to get arrested for that or get a ticket? Rarely, but it's still illegal. So don't be stupid. Don't just cross at the crosswalk. That's why they're there. They're there to keep you safe. And don't use music and things that you don't own. Why? Because they're like crosswalks. They're there to keep you safe. Those are why they have agreements. Read them. Read the agreements. That's why they're there. Thank you for being here. We got a lot of great stuff coming up on the podcast editing and support show. And I am thrilled that you're here. I'm thrilled that you care enough to press play. And I would love for you to share this with anyone who is looking for a podcast editor that gives a crap, right? then reach out to them and say, hey, Dave wants to work with you over at podcasteditingandsupport.com. Would love to reach out, and I would love to chat with them. And I'm setting up a referral program on my website. So even if you haven't hired me yet, I say yet, even if you haven't hired me yet to be your editor, you can make money through the people you send to me. Oh, yes. When they pay, I pay. And I will pay you back for your kind reference and recommendation. You can make money from your good friend Dave by sending people my way. I would love to work with people that you know and trust and care about. Send them to me, podcasteditingandsupport.com. All my information's there. Love to hear from you, as always. And if you want to leave me a voice message, great. Head over to my website, podcasteditingandsupport.com. And here's the music. I'm going to have to fix that. Take care, everybody. Thanks for being here. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Podcast Editing and Support Show. Visit us at podcasteditingandsupport.com, podcasteditingandsupport.com. We would love to help you find a great podcast editor, or if you want to hire us, we would love to work with you. Podcasteditingandsupport.com. Catch you on the next episode. Take care.